So I'm fairly convinced at this point that something is going wrong with the ramp of 4680 batteries, which I'm not happy to report about because you go back and watch Battery Day, I was really excited for these new cells, and if you can remember way back when, my original plan was to try to buy a Tesla, originally a Model Y, which we knew was getting 4680 cells, because I was convinced, this is the next generation, the dry electrode process is going to be great, the tabless electrode and the simplicity of manufacturing is going to make a product with extreme range and still be affordable and practical. And of course, ever since then, it's just kind of been a slow realization of doubt and delay over and over again. In fact, if you go back and watch Battery Day, Elon said that they originally expected to be at 100 gigawatt hours of Tesla's own local battery production by the end of 2022. And I think it's fairly clear that Tesla is probably barely even building a fraction of that 100 gigawatt hours they originally set out to build by now. And based on their wording in the last earnings call, I'm not even convinced Tesla is currently building any vehicles with the 4680 batteries right now, because they started to at Giga Texas when they were first at low volume and only building a few dozen per day. But as they started ramping up production at Giga Texas, they started adding 2170 lines, which Elon had said in the past, that's what originally they had as a backup plan in case 4680s weren't in enough supply. Then after people went to the Tesla HQ at the annual shareholder meeting, they said they were not seeing any of the old assembly lines that they saw back at the Cyber Rodeo event that, were dedicated to 4680 production. Now they're just seeing 2170 Model Ys being built, but that's allowing Giga Texas to ramp up quite a bit. And the good news is, just because the 4680 ramp is not going the way Tesla thought, that doesn't mean the company is in trouble. That doesn't mean sell the stock, because as Elon has already said, they have enough cell supplies from existing suppliers, LG, Panasonic, CATL, to meet all of their goals and hit their targets of vehicle production for this year. So I don't think it's really going to cause any problems in the near-term future, but where this may start to become a problem is something that I know a lot of you guys care about. Cybertruck absolutely is a vehicle that was designed from the ground up to utilize the 4680 platform, and thanks to a new report from Reuters, who some people may instantly write this off as FUD, but I just want to be a little bit fair here. Reuters has not typically just dropped all kinds of negative press on Tesla. In fact, Reuters is often the source that comes forward with information on Tesla's new gigafactories and letting them know, hey, they've got a new model in the works, or hey, they're going to expand production even further. So I figured if I report on what Reuters writes for all of the nice things they say about Tesla, it's only fair that I also highlight some of the negative things they say about Tesla, which is that they've spoken with some battery experts that are working with Tesla directly on 4680 production. And from these experts, they have said that time and time again, anytime they try to get the 4680 production up to high volume, it has very poor yields, or in other words, there's a lot of cells that don't end up getting used and they have to throw out a bunch of battery packs. They have said that there's still a lot of advantages to the 4680 form factor, like they were able to reduce the number of welding required for the battery packs because the 4680 batteries can be structural and they're overall just simplified compared to the 2170s. So they referenced that Tesla went from over 17,000 weld points in the 2170 Model Y to just 1,600 weld points in the 4680 Model Y, so that's a big benefit. And when Tesla was building 4680 Model Ys, again, I don't think they're building them, at least for consumers anymore, they said they were saving around $5,500 per Model Y, which is a pretty substantial savings if you consider their margins are already around 30%. But the only issue with that is if you're not able to ramp up and have enough 4680 cells to build Model Ys at significant volume, like 1,000 a week to 2,000 a week to 5,000 a week, which is what they were hoping to hit within a year of being operational, those savings aren't going to matter if you can't build enough of the car. So I think the dry coating process has ended up being far more problematic than they originally realized. And, they kept doubling down in earnings calls and at events and stuff that, yeah, we're still trying to figure that out, but we're getting closer and we're getting better. And I'm sure it's still an ongoing research and development phase right now, but I think Tesla is probably coming close to a really difficult decision to make, because at a certain point, you have to keep your eyes focused on the mission statement of the company, which is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. And if you keep focusing and if you keep dwelling on what you think is the answer, but you keep getting delayed and you keep getting pushed back with your timelines, and time again it's showing that, hey, maybe you just can't make this work, or maybe it's way harder than you expected it to be, then you might have to shift strategies. And I know I probably sound a little bit biased because of the vehicle I'm sitting in right now, but after seeing how quickly CATL was able to ramp up production of lithium iron phosphate batteries and how quickly Tesla was able to go from, hey, you know what? That's a pretty cool new chemistry. Hey, the batteries are prismatic instead of cylindrical. That's kind of cool. Let's start putting them in our cars in China. And then like only a couple of quarters go by. Actually, let's start putting those in our vehicles in the United States. And they use far more easy to access materials like iron instead of nickel and cobalt. And clearly because of those easy to access materials and the fact that CATL has been able to ramp up the production very, very quickly, and all of those LFP patents have now expired in the United States. Many of you may disagree with me, but I think Tesla needs to start accelerating production of lithium iron phosphate domestically in the US. Because, of course, having a localized supply chain is having the most cost-effective supply chain, and that's why they want to build 4680s at Giga Texas and Cato Road and everything. But Elon himself has even admitted on earnings calls that he thinks like 2/3 of all batteries in the future are going to be LFP. And if the majority of Teslas, like I'm sure, because they already have one in China and they have it available in Europe now, that using blade batteries or at least just some form of lithium iron phosphate cells in a Model Y could result in you ramping up production really, really fast and also allow you to bring prices down, because the Model Y is a very efficient vehicle, fairly aerodynamic, and it's already using those single piece castings, which help save on weight. I think Tesla can quickly ramp up to easily become the most popular vehicle in the world just by emphasizing more lithium iron phosphate production instead of trying to focus so much on higher energy density 4680 cells, especially now that CATL is coming forward with these new chemistries like lithium iron manganese phosphate, which should allow for higher energy density, which is basically the biggest problem with LFP, is just that it doesn't have the same energy density as the 2170s do. But if that manganese chemistry allows them to not use nickel or cobalt in the batteries, which allows them to simplify the manufacturing process, and they're able to get high cycle life with increased energy density, that I think is ultimately the future. And the reason I consider it the future is because today, as we speak, I am driving a vehicle with lithium iron phosphate batteries. And it was quite a while ago when we originally had Tesla Battery Day, and way back when, I was originally not planning on buying a Tesla for a while, but I kept saying, I'm gonna wait until Tesla launches that 4680 Model Y. I'm gonna wait until we get those next generation cells. We kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and I even made jokes about the fact that I think Sandy Munro is probably gonna tear down a 4680 Model Y before they actually put the 4680 Model Y on the configurator. I was joking, but that actually happened. Like, they only launched the 4680 Model Y for existing inventory and accelerating delivery. They never officially launched it on the configurator, and now Giga Texas seems to just be building all Model Ys with 2170s. So to me, that says a lot about how slow the ramp has gone for 4680s. And my guess now, because we know Cato Road is probably still building them, they're probably using all of those cells in the Tesla Semi, which is now supposed to launch later this year. But of course, that's going to be a very low volume vehicle. Yes, it will take advantage of the higher energy density, but Tesla knows they can get away with producing the Tesla Semi at very limited volume for extended periods of time because it's like a commercial vehicle. It's not like the sexy lineup, so it doesn't really matter if there's a lot of reject cells and if it's at low production. So kind of the Tesla Semi is perfect for the 4680 because it needs that higher energy density, but at the same time doesn't need to be at high volume. But the real concern here I have with hearing the report from Reuters and seeing how Tesla has had like a bunch of structural battery packs stored at Giga Texas that they don't appear to be using, that Joe Tegmeyer has caught from the outside of the factory, which I don't necessarily view as a good sign because those battery packs are not on the assembly line and they're not going into cars. This could end up significantly impacting the timeline of the Cybertruck because they expected that truck to use the 4680s from the beginning. Hopefully, maybe there's a way they could actually get to switch it over to 2170 cells, or like I said, they could start working on mass production of lithium iron manganese phosphate, which allows for that higher energy density. Maybe they could get that in the Cybertruck, and then you could charge your Cybertruck to 100% every day, but it would go along the lines of my theory that the Cybertruck probably won't be able to start with a 500-mile range. It might end up being closer to 300, which is a bummer for all of you people that want to tow with it, but ultimately Rivian and Ford are proving that there is still plenty of demand for electric pickup trucks that only have 300 miles of range or less. And I don't think the Cybertruck will be any different, simply because this will be the only electric truck on the market with supercharging access, and that gives it a huge advantage over any other electric truck on the market. I know Tesla is supposed to start opening up the supercharging network to all EVs, but they're not in a big rush to do so, and they're not selling adapters, and I'm pretty sure that's only going to apply to new supercharging stations that will have CCS. That doesn't mean all superchargers are suddenly available. So I'm pretty convinced at this point that the 4680 might not be worth like completely scrapping, but might at least need to be shelved and just left in the development phase, and Tesla needs to start working more on localized LFP production rather than importing all of these cells from China, because I think they're clearly energy dense enough to make capable vehicles like this one, which doesn't have single piece castings, it's not a structural battery pack or anything, but still gets amazing efficiency. This is the most efficient vehicle on the market. Still can get 270 miles of range, which is fantastic, and with improvements of energy density, I think it could easily get a Model Y over 300 miles of range, because they're already starting to use this updated chemistry in China, and that vehicle will likely launch in the next couple quarters. That's what I think Tesla needs to emphasize, just because they could likely build a lot of kilowatt hours worth of batteries and not use as expensive materials, and I think CATL has proven it's a lot easier to ramp than the 4680 battery is. So hopefully I made some sort of sense in today's rambles. Let me know what you guys think of how long it's been taking Tesla to get the 4680s right. Do you think it's worth scrapping? Do you think they should still go after it? Does this make you even more worried about the Cybertruck than before? All that good stuff. Let me know your thoughts down below. And thank you to everyone on Patreon for supporting this channel directly. It seriously helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.